Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you has the power to change everything. You can spend weeks, months, even years trying to get someone's attention. You can bend over backward, do favors, act sweet, play cool, try every little strategy to stand out. But none of that matters, because there is one thing, just one, that if you do it once, he will choose you, even if he has 1,000 other options. Why? Because life and love doesn't reward the loudest voice in the room. It doesn't reward the person who is desperate to be chosen. It rewards the one who creates undeniable impact, the one who shows up with clarity, presence, and power. And when you do this once, you make yourself unforgettable. You see, attraction isn't about beating the competition. It's not about being prettier, smarter, funnier, or more charming than the rest. That game is endless. And when you play it, you're already losing because you've put yourself in a position of proving, of chasing, of showing why you're enough. But the truth is, the person who is chosen is the one who makes the boldest statement without saying 1,000 words. Imagine this. He's surrounded by people, options everywhere, different faces, different personalities, endless possibilities. But then there's you. And instead of trying to fight for space in the crowd, you do something different. You stand firm. You show presence. You communicate with your actions and your energy that you are not another option in the lineup. You are the option, the one that doesn't compete because you don't need to. This is the mistake most people make. They believe that more effort equals more attention, that if they try harder, bend further, give more, they'll be noticed. But effort without clarity becomes noise, and noise is forgettable. What is unforgettable is certainty. Certainty in who you are, certainty in what you deserve, certainty in the way you carry yourself. That's the moment everything shifts, because people aren't drawn to those who beg to be chosen. They're drawn to those who have already chosen themselves. The ones who walk into a room and instantly command respect, not because they're the loudest, not because they were trying to outshine anyone, but because their energy says, I am enough, whether you see it or not. Do this once, truly, deeply, and it's more powerful than 100 gestures of trying to please. That one moment of self-respect, of showing boundaries, of standing tall, it pierces through the noise. It tells him, this is not someone I can overlook. This is someone I must pay attention to. Think about it. When has someone caught your attention the most? Was it when they tried too hard? When they were everywhere? When they were constantly seeking approval? Or was it the person who, with one look, one action, one statement, made it clear they knew their worth? That's what lingers. That's what stays. That's what makes someone unforgettable, even when surrounded by 1,000 others. And here's the truth. The moment you try to be everything to someone, you lose yourself. But the moment you become unapologetically yourself, you gain power. Because you stop asking to be chosen, you become the choice. So what is this one thing? It's the act of showing certainty, the act of standing in your value, the act of saying with your presence alone, I am not here to convince you. I am here to be me. And if that's not enough, then you're not for me. That single act shifts the entire dynamic. Suddenly, you're not another person fighting for attention. You're the one who sets the standard. And trust me, that's magnetic. Do this once, just once, and everything changes because he'll feel it. He'll feel that you are not desperate to be picked. He'll feel that you're not one more option in the lineup. He'll feel that if he doesn't step up, he risks losing someone extraordinary. And that feeling, that urgency, cannot be ignored. So stop thinking you need to outshine 1,000 others. Stop wasting energy on trying to prove yourself. Instead, channel all that energy into one moment of absolute certainty, one act of self-respect, one expression of unshakable confidence. That's the thing that separates you from the rest. Do this once and you'll be chosen, not because you begged for it, not because you fought for it, but because you became unforgettable. And in a world full of options, the unforgettable one always wins. Got it? You want the speech to open with an expanded, commanding first line that instantly grabs attention, then flow into a strong motivational delivery without headings, about 800 words. I'll make it punchy, urgent, and in the style you ask for, Do you realize that in a single moment, with one decision, with one action, you can separate yourself from every other option he has and make him see you as the only choice that matters? One moment. That's all it takes. Not weeks of trying, not months of proving, not endless effort. Just one moment where you show up differently, where you communicate through your presence that you are not another option because you refuse to be compared. That moment makes you unforgettable. That moment makes him choose you, even if there are 1,000 others standing right in front of him. Too many people waste their time trying to compete. They think they need to be prettier, funnier, more available, more agreeable. They think the game is about adding, showing more, giving more, chasing more. And what happens? They blur into the background. They become noise. And noise is forgettable. But certainty, confidence, clarity, those things cut through like lightning. They silence the crowd. They command attention without even trying. And the truth is, one strike of lightning is more powerful than 1,000 flickering lights. If you want to be chosen, you have to stop thinking like everyone else, stop chasing, stop proving, stop begging for recognition. The person who gets chosen is not the one who screams the loudest, but the one who stands still with absolute conviction, the one who says through every action, I don't need to convince you because I already know my worth. That energy is magnetic. That energy makes you impossible to ignore. Think about it. When has someone left the deepest impression on you? Was it the one who constantly tried to please, who bent over backward to get your approval? Or was it the one who, with a single look, a single act of self-respect, made you stop in your tracks? You remember them because they didn't compete. They didn't lower themselves. They didn't beg. They stood tall. They showed certainty. And in that one moment, they created impact. That's what makes a person unforgettable. You don't need 1,000 chances. You don't need endless strategies. You just need one act of certainty. One moment where you stop being another name in the lineup and instead show yourself as the standard. Because the truth is, people are not attracted to those who try to be everything. They're attracted to those who are unapologetically themselves. When you live in your truth, when you carry yourself like you already know you're enough, that's when you shift the dynamic. You stop asking to be chosen and you become the choice. This is the mistake so many make. They think the more they give, the more they prove, the harder they try, the more unforgettable they'll become. But effort without clarity becomes desperation, and desperation kills attraction. What pulls someone in, what holds their attention is certainty. That deep, calm energy that says, I know what I bring. I know what I deserve. And if you don't see it, that's your loss. That kind of energy doesn't chase, it attracts, and it only takes showing it once for everything to change. Picture this, he has options everywhere. Faces, personalities, possibilities all around him. But then there's you, and in the moment when everyone else is trying to outshine one another, you do something radical. You don't compete. You don't try to be louder, prettier, funnier, more impressive. You simply stand in your power. You respect yourself. You show boundaries. You carry yourself as if you already know your value. And in that single moment, you cut through the noise. You make him realize you are not like the rest. You are the exception. That's the truth of why people choose. They don't choose based on who tries the hardest. They choose based on who leaves the deepest mark. And the deepest mark doesn't come from effort. It comes from certainty, the kind of certainty that can be shown in a single glance, a single decision, a single act of strength. That's why I say, do this once, just once, and you will be remembered. So stop drowning in the idea that you need to prove yourself. Stop trying to fit into what you think will make you more appealing. All of that is noise, and noise is forgotten. Instead, focus on the one thing that makes you irreplaceable. Certainty in your own value. That's the most powerful thing you can ever show. It's the thing that will make him feel urgency, the thing that will make him realize that if he doesn't choose you now, he may never have the chance again. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to keep repeating this over and over again. You don't need to live your life performing for approval. One act of clarity, one demonstration of self-respect, one moment of standing tall in your worth, done with conviction, is enough. It sears into the mind. It creates contrast. It makes you unforgettable. So remember this, you don't win by trying harder. You win by being certain. You win by showing through your energy and your actions that you are not an option. You are the option. Do it once and he'll choose you. Do it once and you'll never be forgotten. Do it once and the game changes forever. Perfect. You want me to craft a full motivational speech of about 800 words, starting with a commanding, powerful line that expands on the idea attraction is not about competition. It's about distinction. No headings, just pure flow, strong and motivational in a Matthew Hussey style delivery, but without mentioning him. I'll make it punchy, urgent, and performance ready. Attraction is not about competition. It's about distinction. Think about that for a moment. You don't win by trying to be better than the 1,000 others. You win by being the one no one else can replace. And the mistake people make is believing they have to fight, prove, or outshine to be chosen. But the truth is, the moment you step into competition, you've already lost. Because competing says, I'm just like the others, only trying harder. Distinction says, I am in a league of my own. And that single shift changes everything. Most people waste energy trying to outrun the crowd. They look around at the competition and think, how can I be prettier? How can I be funnier? How can I be more impressive? They live in comparison. They measure themselves against everyone else. But here's the problem. When you compare, you conform. You start blending in. You start chasing someone else's idea of value instead of standing in your own. And when you blend in, you disappear. When you conform, you become forgettable. Attraction isn't about being better. Better is subjective. Better depends on taste, on mood, on timing. Someone will always be taller, smarter, richer, younger. You can't win that game. And you shouldn't try, because the game you can win, and the only game worth playing, is distinction. Distinction is what makes someone unforgettable. Distinction is the energy that says, you won't find this anywhere else. And that is far more powerful than trying to be the best version of what already exists. Imagine a room full of 1,000 voices, all shouting, all trying to be heard. Now imagine one person stepping into the room, not shouting at all, but speaking with clarity, calm, and conviction. Everyone stops, everyone listens. Not because that person was louder, not because they competed harder, but because they were distinct. That's the secret. You don't need to compete, you need to create contrast. And contrast doesn't come from volume, it comes from certainty. The people who leave a mark are not the ones who fought hardest to be liked. They are the ones who showed up as something different, something authentic, something unshakable. That's why attraction has nothing to do with chasing, proving, or trying to outdo someone else. It's about owning who you are so completely that no one else can replicate it. Distinction comes from clarity. Clarity about your value. Clarity about your standards. Clarity about what you will and will not accept. This is where most lose themselves. They think attraction is about adapting. They mold themselves to what they think the other person wants. They become agreeable, available, predictable. They strip away the very edges that make them unforgettable, all in an attempt to win. But you don't win by removing your uniqueness. You win by magnifying it. You win by being bold enough to show the parts of yourself that are different, even if not everyone will love them. Because the right person doesn't want a copy. They want the original. When someone has options, and they always will, what separates you from the rest isn't how much harder you work for their attention. It's how clearly you communicate through your actions, your energy, your presence, that you are not another option at all. Competing says, pick me. Distinction says, I don't need to be picked. I am the choice. That's what turns attraction into something magnetic. That's what makes someone stop, notice, and never forget you. Think about it. When has someone caught your attention most powerfully? It wasn't the one who kept running after you, was it? It wasn't the one who tried to fit into every mold, to say all the right things. No, it was the one who surprised you, the one who stood out, the one who owned their presence without apology. That's what lingers. That's what makes someone unforgettable, even when surrounded by 1,000 alternatives. Distinction doesn't require more effort. It requires more truth, more honesty about who you are, more courage to show it, more strength to stand by it. When you stop trying to compete, you give yourself permission to be rare, and rarity is irresistible. Because in a world full of copies, the original always has value. That's why the moment you stop chasing, stop conforming, stop fighting for attention, you become the one who naturally draws it in. So here's the truth. If you want to be chosen, stop competing. Competing puts you in the crowd. Distinction takes you out of it. Distinction says there is no comparison because there is no other me. And that is the energy that makes someone see you differently. That's the energy that makes them feel deep down that they can't let you go. Remember this, attraction doesn't reward the one who tries the hardest. It rewards the one who dares to be distinct. Competing keeps you running. Distinction makes you unforgettable. And the moment you show it, even once, you shift from being one of many to being the only one. One action, one decision, one moment of presence can outshine 1,000 others. Think about that. You don't need endless chances. You don't need to keep proving yourself. You don't need to try harder than everyone else in the room. You just need one moment of absolute clarity, one moment where your presence speaks louder than 1,000 empty gestures. That is the power of presence. And when you show it, even once, you change the entire game. Too many people believe attraction is about accumulation. They think if they do more, give more, try more, they'll finally be seen. They run themselves ragged trying to out-effort the competition. But presence doesn't work that way. Presence is not about quantity. It's about quality. It's about the impact of a single moment that cannot be ignored. It's the look that lingers, the choice that defines you, the act of certainty that separates you from the rest. Picture this, 1,000 people trying to shine, 1,000 voices talking at once, 1,000 hands reaching out. Chaos, noise, confusion. But then, in the middle of it all, one person steps forward with absolute calm, absolute certainty, absolute presence. Suddenly, the chaos fades. Suddenly, every eye turns. Not because they tried harder, not because they screamed louder, but because they were undeniable. That is the power of one action. That is the power of one decision. That is the power of presence. And here's the secret most people miss. Presence doesn't come from effort. It doesn't come from desperation or performance. It comes from certainty. The certainty of knowing who you are. The certainty of knowing what you stand for. The certainty of knowing what you will and will not accept. That certainty radiates. And when it does, one act of it speaks louder than 1,000 acts of trying. Think back to the people you can't forget. Was it the one who was always chasing, always proving, always trying to please? Or was it the one who in a single moment showed self-respect so strong it made you stop in your tracks? It wasn't about what they said 100 times. It was about what they did once. That's the power of presence. You don't need to keep proving when one clear moment of truth is enough to leave a mark that lasts. This is why so many lose. They believe they need to do more to be noticed, more effort, more attention, more compromise. But more can actually make you invisible. More is forgettable. What's unforgettable is the rare moment when someone refuses to blend in, when someone draws a line, holds a boundary, makes a decision with clarity and calm strength. That moment cuts through the noise. That moment makes them unforgettable. Because attraction isn't about being the loudest. It's about being the clearest. It's about creating a contrast so sharp that it leaves no doubt. People don't remember the one who tried hardest to compete. They remember the one who stood out by being certain. And certainty can be communicated in a single moment of presence. Imagine saying no when everyone else says yes. Imagine walking away when everyone else is begging to stay. Imagine holding your standards when everyone else is lowering theirs. Those decisions, those small, precise, powerful moments carry more weight than 1,000 others trying to please. Because they show something deeper. They show strength. They show confidence. They show that you are not another option, but the option. And the truth is, presence doesn't just draw attention, it commands respect. It tells someone, I don't need to prove myself because I already know my worth. And when you show that even once, you're remembered. Because in a world full of noise, clarity is rare. In a world full of chasing, calm confidence is rare. In a world full of options, distinction is rare. And rarity is always irresistible. So stop exhausting yourself by trying to be louder, trying to be more, trying to chase harder. Stop drowning in the belief that attraction is about endless effort. It isn't. It's about that one moment you choose presence over performance. That one moment you choose certainty over desperation. That one moment you show through action who you really are and what you really deserve. That's the shift. That's the difference. And it only takes once. Because the moment you show true presence, the moment you make one decision rooted in clarity and strength, you separate yourself from everyone else. You stop being one of many. You become unforgettable. Got it. You want a motivational speech of around 800 words, opening with a powerful expanded line that shows how clarity and self-respect make someone irreplaceable. No headings, just pure flow, strong tone, and stage-ready rhythm. Here's the crafted version. Clarity and self-respect are what make a person irreplaceable. Not looks, not charm, not effort, not endless giving. Clarity and self-respect. Two qualities that most people overlook, yet they are the very qualities that separate the unforgettable from the forgettable. Because here's the truth, when you know who you are, when you know what you want, and when you respect yourself enough to stand by it, you instantly step out of the crowd. You're no longer competing. You're no longer chasing. You become rare. And rare is irreplaceable. Most people lose themselves because they lack clarity. They don't know what they truly want, so they settle for anything. They don't know what they deserve, so they accept less. They don't know their standards, so they let others write the rules. And without clarity, they drift, they bend, they shrink, and soon they disappear into the background of every other option. But the moment you find clarity about who you are and what matters to you, you become undeniable. Because clarity cuts through confusion. Clarity communicates strength without a single word. But clarity alone is not enough. It must be paired with self-respect. And self-respect is not about arrogance. It's not about thinking you're above anyone. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that you refuse to trade it for crumbs. Self-respect is when you say no to being treated as less than you deserve. Self-respect is when you walk away from what doesn't serve you. Self-respect is when you stop begging to be chosen and instead choose yourself first. That is what makes you stand apart. That is what makes you unforgettable. Think about the people who left the deepest mark on you. Was it the ones who always said yes, who bent over backward to keep you happy, who abandoned themselves to gain your approval? Or was it the ones who had the courage to stand firm, who held their ground, who valued themselves so much that you couldn't help but value them too? That's the truth of it. Clarity makes someone clear. Self-respect makes them solid. And together, those two things make someone irreplaceable. Irreplaceable doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean flawless. It doesn't mean they never make mistakes. It means they bring something so rare, so grounded, so true that no one else can replicate it. And that is not found in effort. It's found in energy. The energy of someone who knows what they want, who knows what they deserve, and who refuses to compromise those things just to be accepted. That kind of energy is magnetic. That kind of energy makes someone unforgettable. Most people try to be irreplaceable by doing more. More messages, more calls, more giving, more bending, more sacrificing. They try to prove their worth by what they do for others. But here's the problem. When your worth is based on what you give, you become replaceable because someone else can always give more. But when your worth is rooted in clarity and self-respect, no one can replicate it because no one else can be you. No one else can bring your standards, your boundaries, your values, your presence. That's why clarity and self-respect create distinction. And distinction is irreplaceable. Clarity tells someone, this is who I am. Self-respect tells them, this is what I will not accept. Together they say, if you want me, step up. If you don't, step aside. That is power. That is confidence. That is what makes someone stop in their tracks and realize they are not dealing with just another option. They are dealing with the option. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't take 1,000 acts. It doesn't take months of proving. It can be one act of clarity, one act of self-respect that makes the difference. One moment where you draw the line. One moment where you say no instead of yes. One moment where you walk away instead of clinging. That one act can burn into someone's mind more powerfully than 100 acts of trying to please, because clarity and self-respect aren't noise. They're signals that cut through the chaos and command attention. Remember this, attraction is not about being better than others. It's not about trying harder. It's not about endless effort. Attraction is about being distinct, and nothing makes you more distinct than being clear about who you are and respecting yourself enough to never compromise it. That combination is rare. That combination is magnetic. That combination makes you unforgettable. So stop thinking you need to compete. Stop thinking you need to chase. Stop thinking you need to prove yourself to anyone. Start by finding clarity. Who are you? What do you want? What do you deserve? Then add self-respect. Draw the line. Hold the standard. Never trade your value for approval. And when you do this, even once, you will feel the shift. You will see how everything changes, because suddenly you are no longer one of many. You are the one who cannot be replaced. Clarity and self-respect. Together, they make you stand taller, walk stronger, speak clearer. Together, they make you the person people remember. Together, they make you unforgettable. Do it once and you'll see. You won't just be another option. You'll be the only one. People are drawn to certainty, not noise, not desperation. Certainty, that's the quality that makes someone magnetic. That's the energy that pulls people in without effort. Noise gets ignored. Desperation pushes people away. But certainty is irresistible. Because in a world full of confusion, in a world full of doubt, in a world full of endless options, the person who shows clarity, the person who radiates confidence, the person who knows what they want and who they are, that's the person who stands out. Most people think attraction is about volume. They think if they do more, give more, try more, they'll finally be noticed. They flood the space with words, with gestures, with effort, believing that louder equals stronger. But noise is cheap. Noise is forgettable. Everyone can make noise. Desperation, too, is easy to spot. It seeps through every action, every word, every attempt to please. And when people feel it, they step back. Because desperation doesn't attract, it repels. What attracts is certainty. Certainty says, I know who I am. Certainty says, I don't need to be chosen to have value. Certainty says, I'm not here to compete with anyone, because there is no other me. That's the energy people crave. That's the energy that cuts through the noise and makes someone unforgettable. And the beauty of certainty is that it doesn't have to be loud. In fact, it rarely is. True certainty is calm, steady, unwavering. It's not trying to convince. It simply is. Think about the people who left the deepest impression on you. Was it the one who tried too hard, who smothered you with effort, who made their need for validation obvious? Or was it the one who, without raising their voice, without chasing, without begging, simply carried themselves with an undeniable sense of value? You remember them because they were certain. They didn't ask for your approval. They embodied it within themselves. That kind of energy doesn't fade. That kind of energy is unforgettable. Certainty is powerful because it's rare. Most people are ruled by doubt. They second-guess themselves. They question their worth. They chase approval because they don't fully believe they deserve it. And that energy bleeds through, whether they speak it out loud or not. But when someone walks into a room with certainty, when they don't look around for comparison, when they don't ask silently to be validated, they become magnetic, because certainty is stability. And people are drawn to stability like a flame in the dark. And here's what most get wrong. They think certainty is about perfection. It's not. Certainty isn't pretending to be flawless. Certainty is owning your truth, flaws and all, without apology. Certainty is saying, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I will and won't accept, and standing by it. That's what makes someone distinct. That's what makes someone valuable. That's what makes someone irreplaceable. Noise says, notice me. Desperation says, please choose me. Certainty says, I've already chosen myself. And that shift changes everything. Because the moment you live in certainty, you stop chasing. You stop proving, you stop bending, you stop competing, you stand. And when you stand, people notice, not because you're trying, but because your energy leaves no other option. Imagine someone surrounded by choices. Options everywhere, faces everywhere, voices everywhere, all trying to be seen, all trying to be heard. It's overwhelming. But then in the middle of it all, one person shows up. Not loud, not desperate, not bending, just certain. Certain in how they move. Certain in how they speak, certain in how they carry themselves. That certainty creates contrast so sharp it can't be ignored. That's the person who gets remembered. That's the person who gets chosen. Because people aren't looking for the loudest voice. They're looking for the clearest signal. They're not searching for the most desperate plea. They're searching for the one who doesn't need to beg. Certainty is clarity. Certainty is strength. Certainty is value. And when you show it, even once, you outshine every desperate noise around you. This is why trying harder isn't the answer. More effort, more noise, more chasing. It doesn't make you unforgettable. It makes you common. What makes you unforgettable is one act of certainty, saying no when everyone else says yes, walking away when others cling, holding your standard when others lower theirs. That kind of certainty is rare. That kind of certainty is powerful. And that kind of certainty makes you magnetic. So if you want to be chosen, stop drowning in noise. Stop feeding desperation. Stop chasing approval like it will complete you. Instead, step into certainty, step into clarity, step into the energy that says, I am enough, I am the standard, I am not here to compete, I am here to be me. And if that's not enough, then you were never enough for me. That is the voice of certainty. That is the power that draws people in. Never forget this. People are drawn to certainty, not noise, not desperation. Be certain once and you'll be remembered. Be certain once and you'll be chosen. Be certain once and you'll never have to fight for attention again, because certainty doesn't compete, it attracts. Certainty doesn't beg, it commands. Certainty doesn't fade, it lasts. Perfect. You want a motivational speech around 800 words ending with a strong call to action? Do this once and you'll never be forgotten. No headings, no fluff, just a powerful flow with an expanded strong starting line and a commanding close. Here's the crafted version. There are moments that define you, moments that separate you from the crowd, moments that take you out of the noise and put you in a category of one. And here's the truth. You don't need 100 of those moments. You don't need 1,000 tries. You only need one. One moment where you show up with clarity. One moment where you stand in self-respect. One moment where you radiate certainty so strong, it cuts through everything else. Do this once and it's enough to change everything. Too many people think they need to keep proving themselves over and over. They chase, they beg, they bend, they compromise because they believe the only way to be chosen is through endless effort. They flood the space with noise, with gestures, with desperation, and all that does is make them blend in with the thousands of others doing the same. Because noise is forgettable. Desperation is repellent, but one act of certainty, one decision rooted in clarity and self-respect, that is unforgettable. Think about the people who left the deepest impression on you. It wasn't the ones who tried too hard. It wasn't the ones who drowned you in effort. It was the one who in a single moment showed strength, the one who made a choice that surprised you, the one who held their ground when everyone else was bending. That one act of certainty burned into your memory. You couldn't ignore it. You couldn't forget it. That's the power of one. Presence doesn't come from volume. It doesn't come from being everywhere, doing everything, trying endlessly to prove worth. Presence comes from clarity. Presence comes from self-respect. Presence comes from certainty. When you know who you are, when you know what you want, when you know what you will and will not accept, that energy radiates. And it only takes one moment of showing it to separate you from everyone else. Picture 1,000 voices in a room, all shouting to be heard, 1,000 faces, 1,000 gestures, all trying to outshine each other. Then imagine one person standing in silence, calm, still, certain. Suddenly, the noise fades. Suddenly, every eye turns. Not because they fought for attention, not because they screamed louder, but because they were undeniable. That's what certainty does. That's what clarity and self-respect do. They make you stand out without even trying. And here's the beauty. You don't need to do it every single day. You don't need to constantly perform. You don't need to prove yourself endlessly. All it takes is one defining moment, one choice where you refuse to settle, one action where you hold your boundary, one decision where you say no instead of yes, where you walk away instead of clinging, where you stand tall instead of shrinking. That one moment is enough to make you unforgettable, because attraction doesn't come from desperation. Attraction doesn't come from proving. Attraction comes from contrast, and contrast comes from certainty. Everyone else is trying to be louder, trying to do more, trying to be noticed. You don't need to join them. You need to do the opposite. You need to show that you're different. And the way you do that is by being clear, being strong, being rooted in your own value. People are not drawn to those who try to be everything. They are drawn to those who are unapologetically themselves. They are drawn to those who don't need to be chosen to feel valuable. They are drawn to those who are certain, because certainty is rare. Certainty is magnetic. Certainty is unforgettable. So stop wasting energy on noise. Stop drowning yourself in effort. Stop chasing. Stop begging. Instead, step into one moment of certainty. Step into one moment of clarity. Step into one moment of self-respect so powerful that it leaves no doubt in anyone's mind about who you are and what you deserve. That moment will echo louder than 1,000 gestures of trying to please. That moment will separate you from the rest. That moment will make you unforgettable. And when you look back, you'll realize it didn't take endless effort. It didn't take countless chances. It didn't take proving yourself again and again. It only took one act of standing in your truth, one act of showing your value without apology, one act of certainty.